Good evening, I'm Professor Michael, and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. A large chunk of COVID-19 cases have been linked to migrant communities, so they have been facing a certain level of hostility. However, our health DG has called Malaysians to show some compassion. Malaysia reported more imported COVID-19 cases than the number of local transmissions on Monday. From the 38 new cases, 26 were imported. The remaining 12 cases involved 6 citizens and 6 foreign nationals. Meanwhile, Health Ministry Director General Dr Noor Hisham Abdullah told a press conference that over 51 people were discharged today after recovering from COVID-19. With no new fatalities caused by COVID-19, the death toll in Malaysia remains at 115.
Hari ini adalah merupakan hari ke-29 sejak penguatkuasaan Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan Bersyarat yang bermula pada 4 Mei 2020. Tindakan ini telah diambil bagi membenarkan pembukaan beberapa sektor ekonomi secara terkawal dan berhati-hati dan dalam masa yang sama memastikan penularan jangkitan COVID-19 dapat dibendung.
Meanwhile, Dr Noor Hisham urged Malaysians not to stigmatise foreign nationals following a spike in cases in several clusters involving non-Malaysians.
Iaitu peningkatan kes COVID-19 di kalangan bukan warga negara. Namun golongan bukan warga negara tidak harus disisihkan dan tidak harus distigmakan oleh rakyat Malaysia. Malahan kita perlu bantu mereka untuk membantu mengurangkan penularan COVID-19 di dalam negara.
Hoping to get a haircut? Well, not so fast because the SOP for it still hasn't been completed. Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob has reiterated that barbershops and hair salons will not be allowed to resume operations under the Conditional Movement Control Order. He said the National Security Council is still preparing the standard operating procedure for barbershops and hair salons to operate. He said this during his daily press briefing in Putrajaya today.
Memang tidak dibenarkan sama sekali untuk gunting rambut, ya. SOP sedang disediakan. Saya percaya pihak MKN sedang menyediakan SOP bersama dengan Kementerian Kesihatan. Dan setakat ini belum dibentangkan di dalam mesyuarat khas menteri-menteri. InsyaAllah kita menunggu daripada MKN untuk membentangkan SOP jika dah pun ready lah. Setakat ini belum lagi. Selepas itu baru kita boleh putuskan sama ada nak membenarkan kedai-kedai gunting rambut dibuka atau tidak selepas itu. Dan bila tarikh pun kita bergantung kepada SOP yang dibentangkan nanti. Jadi setakat ini gunting rambut adalah masih di dalam senarai terlarang di mana saja, ya. Okey, termasuk di rumah.
Meanwhile, Ismail Sabri also reminded the public to follow SOPs for the CMCO and reminded them that interstate travel during the CMCO is still not allowed except for 4 occasions. He said they are only allowed to travel across state borders in cases of emergencies, the death of a family member, for work or for married couples living in different states. Ismail said there was still a lot of people getting compounds for interstate travel.
Sebanyak 220 compound dikeluarkan di lapangan dan daripada jumlah itu sebanyak 134 compound dikeluarkan di sekatan jalan raya. Antara negeri yang mencatatkan pengeluaran compound yang tertinggi di atas cubaan rentas negeri adalah Perak 40 compound, Selangor 29 compound dan Pulau Pinang 23 compound.
DAP Amanah and Bersatu youth leaders lodged a report with the MACC today against the Prime Minister, but one party was noticeably missing. Bersatu DAP and Amanah youth wings lodged a report with the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission today against Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin for allegedly using government-linked appointments to entice MPs to support him. The MACC report was led by Amanah Deputy Youth Chief Shazni Munir Muhammad Ithnin, who was accompanied by DAP Youth Chief Howard Lee and Bersatu Youth Exco member Habu Hafiz Salihuddin. However, PKR was notably absent, with no representative from the party anywhere to be seen. The MACC report at its headquarters in Putrajaya was over a leaked audio recording uploaded on Facebook. In the recording, a man whose voice resembles that of Muhyiddin is heard saying that UMNO MPs can be enticed to join Bersatu if they are offered ministerships or government-linked company posts. In a media conference outside the MACC headquarters, Shazni Munir said the Perikatan National Government had gone on to share the spoils of war, as stated in the leaked audio recording. The recording, which purportedly featured the Bersatu president, is said to have been taken from the Bersatu Supreme Council meeting on February 23rd this year. This is the second time PKR had been absent from an effort to project unity between Harapan and the Bersatu faction aligned to disputed party chairperson Dr Mahathir Mohamad. On May 18th, PKR President Anwar Ibrahim was absent from a high-level press conference after the parliament sitting. All top leaders from Amanah, DAP, Warisan and Bersatu were present. They used to be on the same team, but now Syed Saddiq and his former officer Wan Faisal both have their eyes set on the Bersatu Youth Wing's top post. He used to be Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman's former aide, but now Wan Ahmad Faisal, Wan Ahmad Kamal, has turned into a fierce critic of his former boss. Wan Faisal may not have replaced Syed Saddiq's position in the cabinet, having to settle for the post of Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports in the Perikatan National Government, but his hopes of replacing Syed Saddiq in the party are still very much alive. Wan Faisal is in the running for the post of Bersatu Youth Chief at the party's upcoming inaugural polls. According to Wan Faisal, Syed Saddiq no longer has any right to represent the movement after his membership status has been nullified. Wan Faisal, who was Syed Saddiq's former special officer, said the former cabinet minister has no right to use the name of Armada or Bersatu for any reason, particularly in his continuous attempts to interfere in party matters by making various claims. He added that he hoped Syed Saddiq and the Central Bersatu youth leadership would stop issuing statements that conflict with the party's policies and decisions. Responding to Faisal's comments, Syed Saddiq questioned why his former officer was afraid to face him in the party elections. Syed Saddiq said the grassroots should be allowed to decide and Faisal should not support sackings because he was afraid that he may lose. Syed Saddiq is among the 5 Bersatu leaders, including former Prime Minister Dr Mahathir Mohamad and son Mukhlis Mahathir, who has rejected the party's insistence that their membership status were automatically nullified after they sat on the opposition bench during the May 18th Dewan Rakyat sitting. Should BN be led by the UMNO president or Najib Abdul Razak? One UMNO leader thinks it should be Najib. BN component parties have already reached a consensus that the post of the coalition chairperson will continuously be held by the UMNO president, according to the coalition secretary general Anwar Musa. He said this after Sungai Besar UMNO chief Jamal Mat Yunus had backed a purported call for Pekan MP Najib Abdul Razak to be reappointed as BN chief, a position he held as then Prime Minister and UMNO president. Malay daily Sinar Harian had quoted Jamal saying that Najib must be appointed as BN chairperson to strengthen BN. Jamal purportedly said that the move to reappoint Najib is relevant to help strengthen UMNO and BN and regain public confidence ahead of the next general election. He noted that Najib only has a minimum role in his current position as BN's advisory board chairperson. According to Jamal, with the move, UMNO President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi could then focus on UMNO's internal matters to strengthen and bolster UMNO. The BN Supreme Council had appointed Najib, who is facing 42 charges of money laundering, abuse of power and criminal breach of trust, to head the coalition's advisory board in July last year, slightly over a year after its historic loss in the last general election. At the time, several UMNO leaders, including Padang Rengas MP Nazri Abdul Aziz, had described the move as regressive and not good for the party. Coming up next, SpaceX has made history, and then we see how protests in the US continue to worsen over the death of George Floyd. SpaceX, the private rocket company of billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, has launched 2 Americans into orbit. Nearly 24 hours after launching from Florida, SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule delivered NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station on Sunday, marking the first US space capsule to do so with a crew since 2011. The space station's current crew welcomed them aboard with hugs and handshakes after executing a critical spacecraft docking milestone and kicking off the crew's potentially month-long stay in the orbital laboratory. Applause could be heard from the station's downlink to Mission Control in Houston, Texas, as Behnken and Hurley became the first American astronauts launched to the station from US soil in nearly a decade.
And I just wanted to find out if you guys got any sleep on your way up there the last I'd say I got 19 hours. Did you guys get any sleep?
But we did get probably a good 7 hours or so opportunity for sleep, and I did succeed at sleep, and Doug did as well. So the first night is always a little bit of a challenge, but the Dragon was a slick vehicle, and we had good airflow, and so we had an excellent evening, and just excited to be back in low Earth orbit again.
Saturday's launch by SpaceX, the private rocket company of billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, represented another milestone for the reusable rockets it pioneered to make spaceflight less costly and more frequent. It also marked the first time that commercially developed space vehicles owned and operated by a private entity rather than NASA have carried Americans into orbit. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center on Saturday for the journey to the space station. The Falcon X took off from the same launch pad used by NASA's final space shuttle flight piloted by Hurley in 2011. Since then, NASA astronauts have had to hitch rides into orbit aboard Russian Soyuz spacecraft. NASA sent astronauts into space on a brand new vehicle 40 years ago at the start of the space shuttle program. Fire burned near the White House. Stores were looted in New York and Southern California over the death of George Floyd. Police fired tear gas and stun grenades at protesters near the White House in Washington, D.C. on Sunday as demonstrators geared up for another night of violent protests against police brutality. Demonstrators broke through an exterior White House barrier as dozens of U.S. cities braced for another night of unrest after curfews failed to prevent violent clashes one night earlier between protesters and police over the death of George Floyd, an African-American man who was killed by a white Minneapolis police officer around 1 week ago. Civil rights activists say a video of the incident triggered an outpouring of rage that has long simmered over the persistent racial bias in the U.S. criminal justice system. The spreading protests coincide with an apparent deep-seated national discontent over social and economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic. What started as peaceful protests erupted into smashed storefronts, looting and fires across the U.S., with police in many cities firing rubber bullets and tear gas. In New York City, police arrested around 350 people and 30 officers suffered minor injuries. The anger on the streets has been widespread. Footage caught by onlookers showed a man pointing a bow and arrow at protesters at Salt Lake City. A police car drove into a crowd in New York City and a woman run over by a jeep in California. In Minneapolis, a tanker truck drove into a throng of protesters on a closed interstate. It did not appear that any marchers were struck by the truck. A Reuters witness said the truck driver was dragged out of the cab of his truck and beaten by protesters before he was taken into custody by Minneapolis police. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. So, Michael, thank you for watching.